All right, what's up guys? This video is gonna be a little bit different for the Chasing 5-0 series. I was working on the tournament edit for the PPA Las Vegas, but I'm just about to head to PPA Worlds, and by the time you're watching this, I will already be there, but I just didn't have time to finish that video, and honestly, it was stressing me out trying to think about getting it done, which was then counterproductive to actually doing this series because I wasn't focusing on training, I was focusing on editing instead of actually playing the game. So anyways, that's how you got this video, which is basically going to be a bunch of lessons that I've learned on this journey of trying to hit 5-0 that I thought would just be kind of interesting to share with you guys. This episode's kind of gonna be a little bit more like a podcast episode. There's probably not gonna be a ton of B-roll in here, so if you just wanna slap it on in the background, go for it. Before we get into that, I guess, let's do a DUPR check here. So we're a handful of months in. There's probably less than, what is it, like 50-ish, 60, a little less than 60 days left in order to hit 5-0. We started this series at a 4.73, and unfortunately, we sit at a 4.68. I don't even know if you can see my phone right now, but yeah, we sit at a 4.68. So I guess the bright side is I haven't severely dropped and I haven't gone completely the wrong direction, but you know, having played 3 or 4 tournaments now, it is a little bit frustrating to not be higher. I definitely would have expected to be doing better by now, but the PPA Virginia tournament, which was the last episode, if you haven't watched that yet, it was absolutely insane. I would highly recommend you watch. A lot of things went wrong that tournament, and that did lead to the DUPR going down a little bit, which was kind of frustrating. And then every tournament since then has kind of just held the DUPR basically even, honestly. There really hasn't been that large of a swing up or down. Okay, first thing I'm gonna talk about, and this is probably the only thing related to mechanics that I'm going to talk about. People need to hit a bigger serve and a bigger return. I've been using a tool called PB Vision, which I'm not gonna do a whole deep dive in here. Basically, it's just an AI tool that you can upload your games, and it'll give you a lot of stats about serve depth, return depth, how long your rallies were. You can like filter by all your different shots, third shot drop, third shot drive, serve, return. Like, it's an amazing tool. Would highly recommend you check it out. Not sponsored by them, but I've been using it a ton, and it has truly been a gigantic time saver for this series. But anyways, one of the things that PB Vision has pointed out consistently is that my average rally length in a tournament, in rec games, is basically always between 6 and 7 shots. And when I saw that, I really started thinking about it. I was like, man, if you really think about it, the serve, the return, and the third are literally 50% of the balls that I'm hitting on average in a rally. Maybe I should put some more focus on those 3 shots if most of my shots aren't going over, or if most of my rallies aren't going over 6 balls. And you know, like, okay, cool, you could work on a forehand cross-court dink all day, but if you're never getting to the kitchen to hit that shot, what's the point? I would honestly be very curious to see for all of the different levels from 3-0 all the way to like 6-5. Maybe we take out 6-0 plus because we know those rallies are gonna be longer, but what the average rally length is for all those different levels. Because I have to imagine that below 4-0, it's probably even less than 6 balls. So serve and return matters even more. And the reason I want to talk about serve and return is because so many things are set up by having a good serve and by having a good return. You can make your opponent's life so much harder if you have a good serve and return. You know, the conventional wisdom like 3 years ago was just get your serve in, just get your return in, and then the third shot is basically where the game is gonna start. And I just don't think that's true anymore. I think if you have the ability to hit a very deep serve, I don't even think it necessarily has to be hard, to be honest. I think as long as you get both the return and the serve deep, it is a huge advantage. And one of the things I noticed for me is that in tournaments recently, I was not hitting my serve to my full potential because I was so nervous. I just couldn't get myself to swing normal. I was way too worried about hitting it long. My mechanics were off because I was just like thinking about too many other things. And so this last week, I did a drill session where me and a buddy, basically the entire session was just put on serves and returns. One of us was serving, the other one was returning. We set up some cones for serves that were near the baseline, and my objective was just to never hit it below the cone. If it was below the cone, I considered that to be out. Because I want to train my brain to be like, it is, I mean, it's not just as bad as hitting it out. Obviously, you'd rather hit the ball in than out. But like, I wanted to get my brain to the point where it was like, I would rather miss long than miss short and be more comfortable with that. And this last tournament that I just played, which was an MLP team tournament, unfortunately, it didn't go into DUPR, so that's not gonna help the Chasing 5-0 series at all, and I probably won't even turn that into a video. But long story short, my only objective going into that tournament was to hit my serve way deeper, way harder. And that had a huge impact on the day. Honestly, I don't think I have played pickleball that well in a minute. At that tournament, I felt like a legitimate 5-0 player. And the amount of points that we got from either they couldn't return my serve, or if they did get the serve back, it was a weak return and then we crushed a third and won the point, was so high. In one of our first matches, I honestly would not be surprised if 7 to 10 of our points between men's and mixed were purely from the serve and then setting up an easy third. It just makes a huge difference. My personal advice to you would be learn to crank your serve and hit it deep. Again, even if it's not hard, I think deep and just keeping people back is a gigantic advantage. And the same thing applies to returns. In this last tournament I played, the PPA Las Vegas, before the team tournament, one of the matches, I just felt like my thirds were terrible. I felt like I was hitting them high, I was hitting them in the net, I couldn't hit them the way I wanted, and I was getting ready to go home and hit like 10,000 drops, because I was like, why am I so bad at hitting third shot drops? And then when I looked at PB Vision and actually watched it back, it wasn't really that I didn't have the mechanics to hit a good third shot drop. In fact, actually my thirds really weren't as bad as I remembered, but the big problem was the guy I was playing against had an amazing return, and every single third I was hitting, I was always on my back leg trying to hit a third. And moving backwards and hitting a third shot drop is very difficult. Do you know how much easier it is to hit a third shot drop when you can like run into the midcourt and just kind of scoop the ball into the kitchen and boom, you're at the line? Let me tell you, it's a lot better than if you're moving backwards. So it was interesting to learn in that moment that actually it wasn't my third shot drop mechanic that was the problem. It was actually my positioning. And if I had just taken 2 steps backwards after my serve, most of my thirds actually probably would have been pretty good. And so this guy was putting a lot of pressure on me just by having a good return. So anyways, my advice to all of you would be to go drill your serves and returns. I honestly think it would probably have a gigantic payout for most people. If you can start hitting your serve deep 60, 70, 80% of the time, probably gonna have a pretty huge impact on your game.
So quick little update here. I'm in Dallas playing at Worlds right now. I've already played one event. I've got 2 more coming up. And when I was playing men's, I had this realization with my partner that we are playing our best whenever our serves, thirds, and returns are on point. Every time those 3 things are good, the rest of our game falls in place. Don't usually have to worry about hands. Don't usually have to worry about dinking, yada, yada, yada. And so I told him, we're doing the usual warm-up everyone does. You start at the kitchen, you start dinking, maybe you do a little bit of hands, maybe you go back and hit a couple drives, and maybe some like kind of drops that aren't even real drops because you're not getting a return. Anyways, I told him, I was like, why are we doing this? Why don't we just warm up the 3 main things we were talking about? Those are the things that when we do it and we feel good, the rest of our game is fine. So that's something we're experimenting right now, is focusing our warm-up on those 3 things. Obviously, we're still gonna do hands, we're still gonna do some transition, some dinking, but like to me, it's far less important to do those things if our rallies are only lasting 6 or 7 shots. I don't need to worry about my forehand dink the entire time if I'm rarely getting to hit it. So, I don't know, just an interesting realization. Maybe some of you will find that interesting. I always think it's funny watching people warm up because a lot of times they're warming up things that really don't happen that often in a match. So take it for what it's worth to you.
Okay, now lesson number 2, which is almost the opposite of what I just said, is that I feel like I've learned that mechanics are just not nearly as important as I thought, at least up to a certain point. I think there's definitely a threshold where, okay, if you don't know how to hit a third shot drop, obviously you need to know how to hit a third shot drop, right? I don't know what the cutoff would be, if it would be 4-0, if it would be 4-5, 4-7-5. I don't really know exactly where the cutoff range is, where mechanics are maybe not the most important thing for people. But some of the coaching that I've received recently, I've been amazed at how essentially none of it is revolved around mechanics. It's never, you know what, you're doing this when you hit a third shot drive, or when you dink, you're doing this, or a forehand roll. Like, it's literally nothing about that. It always comes down to footwork, positioning, and intent on where the ball was meant to go, and like, why was I hitting the ball there? And I thought that was really fascinating because going into this series, that was not what I anticipated needing to work on at all. I thought it was gonna be, oh, I'm just gonna learn to counter the ball better, I'm gonna learn to hit an overhead better, yada, yada, yada. And I mean, yes, that has been a part of it. I'm still drilling mechanics, but I feel like the things that are leading to the biggest improvements have not been mechanic based. And I thought that was really fascinating. And I mean, when you think about it, look at all the different ways that people play pickleball. There are some pros out there that I personally would probably never really want to hit the ball like. Callan Dawson, who, used to play a lot more pro events, maybe not as many anymore. I mean, he literally holds the paddle where he's choking up with his entire hand like on the back of the paddle, and his mechanics are just very odd. But the guy can play at the pro level. He would absolutely smoke me. He would smoke probably everyone watching this video. And I think we all know those pickleball players that have really unorthodox mechanics that have probably smacked all of us. And then we sat there and went, how on earth did we just lose to them? Like, nothing about those mechanics made sense. They're probably objectively not optimal, but they still play well. So I think there's just a lot to be said about, one, there's not one correct way for everything mechanic-wise, and two, people probably overemphasize mechanics when things like strategy, footwork, and positioning would have just as much payoff, but no one really talks about that online. Like, mechanics are the sexy thing, like how to hit your serve 20% harder, how to hit a third shot with 40% more RPM, whatever it is. Like, those are all the videos that like get clicks. So I don't know, if you're able to get coaching, would highly recommend you get coaching. And in my case, strategy has been a very big part of improving for the Chasing 5-0 series. All right, lesson number 3 for me has been learning to play looser in tournaments. So there was 2 tournaments ago, I played a local tournament. This probably isn't ever gonna be a Chasing 5-0 episode because it wouldn't even be entertaining because I played so bad. But I learned a couple valuable lessons. One, the tournament was at night and I kind of had a long day. I was tired, I didn't have time to take a nap. And so I thought, you know what, I'll drink an energy drink. First of all, I never drink energy drinks. I'm not a giant fan of them, but I was like, that caffeine would probably help. Had 200 milligrams of caffeine, and boy, was that a mistake. Holy cow, my hands at that tournament were shaking so bad. It was actually insane how bad my hands were shaking. I could not hit a third shot drop. I couldn't dink. My brain felt like it was so wired. It was a big learning lesson that caffeine does not work for me at tournaments. And maybe that applies to someone else out there. And maybe some of you are like, dude, I can't operate without caffeine. Figure out whatever works for you. Caffeine doesn't work for me. But the other thing about that tournament is I got so in my head every time I would miss the ball. I'd miss a third, I'd be upset. I'd miss a dink, I'd be upset. I'd miss an overhead, I'd be upset. You probably get the theme here. I was just upset. I couldn't get out of my own head, and I was putting so much pressure on myself to make balls that it just led to me spiraling more and more and more. And by the end of that tournament, I probably haven't been more frustrated in a long time. The following day after that, I was honestly in a terrible mood. It was not a lot of fun. But so what I took away from that tournament was I need to find ways to help me stay loose and not focus on being so tense or being worried about missing. And so this last MLP team tournament that we took gold in, one of my objectives was I'm not gonna worry about it. If I miss an overhead, I don't care. That's fine. It's part of the game. You are going to miss balls when you play pickleball. Not even pros make every third shot drop. They don't make every overhead. Like, pros miss too. And I think I had this unrealistic expectation for myself to never miss a ball, no matter what side I was on the court, whether it was the left side or the right side. I would just get upset. And when I played this last tournament, I'd miss an overhead and I'd go, well, yeah, that sucks. That was an easy ball. I probably should have been able to put that away. But I just shake it off and go back to the baseline and then go for the next one. So I think finding ways to let go of that stuff is extremely helpful. And it's gonna be different for everyone. I can't tell you what is gonna help keep you loose. I can only tell you what works for me. And what works for me is finding ways to crack jokes with my partner, knowing that my partner is not mad at me, and that it just, I don't know. Honestly, for me, a lot of jokes just kind of help, which is not gonna work for everyone. I know some people like to play really serious, but when I'm joking and I can play kind of loose, that really does help me play a lot better, and I just don't get in my head as much. But the last handful of tournaments, the mental was not that awesome, and I think a lot of that has been due to the stress of this series has been a lot more than I was anticipating for a lot of different reasons. One, it's just more stressful when there's a deadline to hit this goal by the end of the year. When I've played tournaments in the past, years past, I was never training that much for them. I've always been so focused on creating content about paddles, and I'm switching paddles like even the night before a tournament. So going into the tournament was kind of always like, this is for fun. I'm here to compete, but like, it's not that serious, Like I'm not that worried if I do well or not. I don't really care if my DUPR goes up or down, whatever. And I think going into this where I know DUPR matters and I have partners and I've traveled and I really want to play well, the stress of all that just makes focusing on playing way harder. I'm worried about setting cameras up. I'm making sure everything is going well. I know that thousands of people are going to watch this, and maybe people are going to watch it and go, oh wow, Chris, like you really sucked at that tournament. Nice job blowing it. That doesn't feel good. So that was some stuff I didn't really anticipate. And so for the rest of the tournaments this year, I think it's going to be about me trying to find ways to let go of that and not care about it. Because in tournaments before, I really have not been that nervous. Like maybe some small jitters here and there, but these last few tournaments were a lot worse than normal. And thankfully, like I've mentioned a couple times, this MLP tournament I just played had no nerves. I played great. Honestly, it was the best I felt like I played in a long time, and there really were no nerves. So I'm hoping I can find ways to bring that into the upcoming tournaments as well, because I think my performance will be a lot better when I am not so focused on all of the external things. All right, number 4. Now, I don't really have advice for how people can do this, but my advice to you would be to find great partners that you genuinely get along with and like being around for pickleball. And I'm gonna be honest, this is not easy to find. I actually feel like I hit a gold mine with both my men's partner and both my mixed partner, because I've been playing pickleball for 4 years now, and I probably haven't in that 4 years met 2 people who are more into improving at the moment. And it makes a world of difference for a lot of different reasons. One, just having a consistent partner is extremely beneficial, in my opinion. Not rotating through partners and like gambling every tournament on, are you gonna get someone who's a hothead, someone who's not a hothead, maybe their mechanics are bad, maybe their mechanics aren't bad. Like there's just all these things you're rolling the dice on, whereas with my partners, if a tournament doesn't go well, we sit down and we talk about it afterwards. Hey, when you do this, it actually makes it a lot harder for me to play. Hey, what if we tried this at the next tournament? I actually think it's a better strategy than what we did here. We can talk about all these things, and I think that makes the journey a lot more fun, because you can see the improvement and you feel like you're on a journey with other people. And I feel like one of the greatest things about pickleball is the people that you meet. Like I think for a lot of people probably watching this video, we meet a lot of incredible people all the time when we play pickleball. You make amazing friends through this sport. And so when you can have those friends that you can kind of go on this tournament journey with, I just think it makes it so much more fun. Like some of the conversations I've had with both Sergey and Mia about this stuff, it's just been so exciting or refreshing. And honestly, it's nice to get someone else's perspective about your own game. After Vegas, I was really not happy with how I played, particularly after mixed day. And I was really hard on myself. I kind of just went off on my own for like an hour. And then me and Mia kind of sat down and talked a little bit just about, hey, like here's what went well today, here's what went wrong. And what I thought went wrong was fairly different from what Mia thought went wrong, at least in terms of my game. And it was kind of nice to just have a partner who was willing to kind of pull me out of that and be like, hey dude, like I'm not worried when you miss this ball. Like I know you can make that ball. So like I'm not thinking, hey Chris, wow, you're terrible at pickleball when you miss this overhead. Like it's fine, forget about it. And even after Vegas, me and Sergey had to sit down and we talked about things that we could do better to talk more in the middle of a match, to figure things out and kind of pick our opponents apart. So my advice to you would just be, if you can find consistent partners that you genuinely enjoy being around, and maybe even that you enjoy being around outside of pickleball. Both Sergey and Mia, I love hanging out with them even outside of pickleball. And I think that has been something that has made this partnership so much more fun, so much more exciting. I don't know. I guess all of that to say, finding good partners, I think just makes pickleball way more fun. And if you can do that, I feel like you're gonna have a much better time. All right, the 5th lesson that I've learned is more just about strategy and analyzing opponents. I'm definitely not an expert in this. I'm absolutely not gonna claim to be, but I do feel like I am much better at it than when I started this series. Prior to this series, I feel like when I played a tournament, it was, this guy seems weaker. Let's just hit every ball to that guy. It wasn't really a specific location, unless something was really obviously bad. Then yeah, okay, maybe we pick on this guy's forehand dink if it's just so obviously bad. But otherwise, it was kind of just playing the game on autopilot. And it was like, did I have a good day or did I have a bad day? If I had a good day, well, I guess I won. If I had a bad day, I guess I lost. But I think being able to, within the first 5 points, assess your opponent and go, what are they really comfortable with and what do they seem to be uncomfortable with, is a very helpful skill to have. And that's where I think sometimes mechanics don't matter as much if you can figure out what your opponent is really bad at and just pick on that thing. So now when I'm at tournaments with Sergey or Mia, I'm looking at my opponents and I'm trying to give them a lot of different balls and just figure out, what are they bad at? Or what are they beating me on? Maybe they keep speeding up in the same spot and I keep getting burned, and that's really good to know, because then maybe we just need to shift our positioning a little bit and it'll be a little bit easier to cover some of those balls. Or maybe within, the first 5 points, it's like, hey, when we drive the ball at this person, they usually give us this type of ball, and then we can go over here with it, which sets us up for this. It just makes the whole thing a lot easier when you can kind of look at your opponent and start making assessments. And now, of course, they're probably gonna make their own adjustments too, and you may need to adjust again. Sometimes they don't, and that just makes your life even easier if they don't adjust. But yeah, I feel like just looking at your opponents, figuring out what they're doing well and what they're doing poorly, will help a lot. And I don't really know how to improve this other than if you can find great partners and just watch a lot of film together and start picking up on patterns like, oh wow, they literally beat us like 8 out of 10 times when we did this. Maybe if we hadn't done that and we went here, we would have fared a lot better. And then you start picking it up better in actual games and things start working out better, So yeah, strategy and analyzing your opponents, I think, is a severely, severely underrated thing. And I feel like it'd be a great thing for more people who teach online to talk about this in videos. Because the guy who's been helping coach me, like I said, he really hasn't been going over any mechanics at all. And I feel like this is a lot of stuff he talks about isn't stuff people talk about in any videos anywhere. And to me, it's more helpful than some of the mechanics stuff anyways. So anyways, those are the 5 lessons, what I feel like I've learned, kind of what's been going on in this journey. I guess I've got a couple other things I just want to talk about before we wrap this thing up. One thing I've been really thankful for is at the beginning of this series, if you guys maybe remember, one of the things I said I was afraid of was if my body was gonna be able to hold up to all the training I was gonna put it through. And I'm really happy to say that it has held up amazing. Way, way better than I was anticipating it would. Thankfully, due to staying on top of my recovery, stretching, and strengthening. But long story short, had really bad back pain for 2 years. It made playing really difficult. I was often in a lot of pain. I was playing through that pain. It wasn't good for me. And I was afraid that that was gonna keep bothering me during this, and it's been completely gone. In fact, I have a little habit tracker thing, and I was just looking at it. I have played, in the last 8 weeks of pickleball, I have only missed 10 days. So I've, on average, been close to playing 6 days a week, and my body has felt awesome. I have a little bit of hip pain, but nothing so bad that it sidelines me from playing. It's more just kind of annoying, and we're working on fixing that right now. But it has truly been amazing being able to be on the court as much as I have, because I haven't been able to be on the court this much in a really long time. And even if I don't hit 5-0 by the end of the year, which would honestly be a really big disappointment for me, I'm just happy to have my health back, because it will make doing paddle reviews so much easier and just even enjoying this game. Every time I'd go to play pickleball and I'd have this back pain, it was just so frustrating. And now being able to get on the court and feel like I can give my entire body to that game feels awesome. So I'm just really thankful for that, and that's been an awesome update to be going through. And then the last thing, one thing I didn't anticipate with this series was how hard balancing a lot of things was gonna be. The amount of gameplay footage review I've been going through, the amount of drilling, traveling, and tournament play has been kind of crazy. When you think about traveling to some of these PPAs, I'm getting there on Friday, I'm playing Saturday, I'm playing Sunday, and then I'm flying back home on Monday, usually very early, so most of the time that entire Monday is kind of a throwaway day because I'm so exhausted. And then that only leaves me like another 4 days before I'm on to the next tournament. By the time you guys are watching this, I will have played 5 weekends in a row of tournaments, and that is a lot. I severely underestimated how hard that would be on the mental, on the physical, and just time for work. I'm sure you guys have noticed that there's been less paddle reviews on the channel. Those aren't going anywhere, by the way. I'm just really into wanting to finish this Chasing 5.0 series and hopefully hit 5.0. But yeah, it's been frustrating not being able to keep up with all the paddle reviews. You know, when I'm training, I just want to hit the paddle that I'm going to compete with, which I guess that's another lesson for you guys out there if you're watching this. Switching paddles all the time, terrible for your game. I've known that for a long time. I've said that before in videos. But if you guys want to improve quickly, you should just stick with a paddle that is good enough and learn that thing in and out, and I promise you it'll be better for you. Anytime I've had to like test paddles before a tournament recently, it's actually been very frustrating because I feel like it throws me off just enough to be kind of annoying for when I go to the tournament. I'm like, can I swing with my main paddle now? I'm actually kind of have to redial it in. So anyways, it's just been very interesting trying to juggle all of those things, and it's actually given me a newfound appreciation for the pro pickleball players because I can't imagine how they travel as much as they do. I've only had to travel for 4 or 5 tournaments in the last couple months, and holy cow, it's already extremely exhausting. It's one of those things where I don't think I realized, until I went through it, I didn't realize how crazy it was, but I can't imagine traveling to all these tournaments. Your livelihood depends on winning these tournaments to be able to keep going to these tournaments and pay your rent and, you know, grocery bills, whatever. And then if you're losing all the time, like that would be so frustrating. I've already been frustrated losing at these tournaments, and I've only lost in a couple tournaments. And so I can't imagine doing that year after year after year. That would just get, I don't know. I have a very newfound appreciation for the pros. A lot of respect for what they're doing. It's actually kind of crazy when I think about it. So yeah, I don't know. Been interesting to kind of juggle everything. Hopefully by the end of the year, we've found a better balance, but it's definitely been interesting. It's a lot of work to train and prep for these tournaments. So anyways, that's, I think, all I got for you guys. Hopefully someone out there found this video helpful. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one.